Hello everyone, today's video is going to be a little bit different. I know I've been uploading PS Lives pretty consistently, but today I want to change it up a bit. So today we're going to be looking at past tournament replays. This is actually, what you're looking at your screen right now is a tournament game between me and Mr. 378, aka the Iron Man of Ubers. This is for BKC's DPP Ubers Invitational all the way back in 2021. Which was 5 years ago. That is very crazy to think. But there's a reason I want to show you these replays. I'm going to be talking about it further as the video goes on. And so this is what you see on your screen is the second game of the series. The first game, I got throttled by a lead Tyranitar, and I'm gonna be talking over it. I think you can see it on your screen right now if I edit it correctly. But basically that Tyranitar and how I played around it was pretty bad. It basically just completely obliterated my team until my opponent sent the rest of their team and they just destroyed me. But this is actually game 2. So game 1 was pretty bad on my part. And this is game 2 of the series. Something that I have to put into context before we start is that I wasn't originally invited to the tournament. I had to sub in for somebody who dropped out after being 0-2. And Kevin, BKC, contacted me saying that, you know, somebody dropped out, and even though they were 0-2, like 2-2 can make it, there were 2 rounds left in Swiss. And I said, well, it could be fun. So this was actually my first time playing DPP Ubers in a tournament game when I started playing this tournament. So I had about 2 weeks of experience when I played this guy. So I won against Finchinator the first week I played, and this is actually week 4. So it was do or die. If I lost this, I would be out of the tournament. So keeping this in mind, and keeping in mind that I lost the first game, I want to go now into the replay. So I'm going to be leading off with my Kyogre. They're going to be leading off with Ho-Oh. They are actually Braybird, Choice Band Braybird. And my Kyogre, the EV spread that I had a 75% chance of living Choice Band Braybird. Is the only set that could KO it. So they do get the roll right off the bat. And when this happened, it was all in like a microsecond, but I got up and I shut the door in my room. I turned off like pretty much everything, and I turned the music off that I had on. And it was time to lock in, because as I said before, if I lost this battle, I would be out of the tournament. So yeah, they take recall damage. I send in my Skarmory. I set up some spikes. They go to Mewtwo, which is a pretty safe play. Actually, let me slow this down a little bit. I go into Latias, and they go for Thunder, and they paralyze me. So that's kind of, I don't have refresh on this Latias, so it's kind of a dead weight at this point. And they go for Ice Beam, and I just go for Dragon Pulse. It doesn't do enough. And I think they go for Self-Destruct here. So they go for Ice Beam. So me thinking that they would probably, for some reason, go into the Ho-Oh, even though the spike was up, maybe keep this as Dead Fodder or something like that. I go for U-turn, but that was not an optimal play. I just wanted to not give the Ho-Oh free switch, and pretty much was my reasoning. So they go into Groudon here, and I go into my own Groudon. So the first thing that I want to do here is obviously set up the rocks for the Ho-Oh. So they have a chance to go into Ho-Oh here, but they don't. They choose to set up rocks, and I do that on of my own as well. So now here I go to Latias, just in case they don't have anything to hit me with. I could just Roost, but as you're going to see in the next turn, they have Fire Punch, so they're able to KO it. And as you can see here, so I'm basically down 3 months. The Scizor is at 20%. and Kyogre is dead. Larias is also dead. So the combination of these two Pokemon actually KO'd 3 of mine and did a lot of damage to my Groudon. I need my Groudon as healthy as possible because I don't know what those 3 Pokemon in the back are. So I am not in the best position, obviously, but since DPP is sort of like a puzzle, this is in general for not team preview gens. Like you don't know exactly what you're facing until you see like all the pieces in the board on the board, right? So you kind of have to keep going and kind of hope that you have a chance to win, right? And this is also a very interesting part of not team preview gens because since you have to figure out what the team is as well, it adds a lot of depth into anticipating what the last 3 Pokemon are and potentially like developing. You have to adapt your game plan as you go. So I think that's also something of merit to those gens. Anyways, Latios dies, and I believe I go into my Groudon again. I do have Lava Plume on this, so my aim here was to go for Lava Plume and get the burn on this, which I do. And I know it's pretty lucky, like getting it on the first try, but the guy got a 25% roll and then a paralysis on my Latias, so I'm not too really. I don't know, if I want to be picky about it, that's what I would say. But yeah, next Karma is pretty safe. I knew they would go into Ho-Oh, and as I said before, I have to keep this Ho-Oh as the least free turns as possible. So I go straight for Whirlwind. I don't get greedy setting up spikes, and it works out because the Ho-Oh is now dead basically, and the Groudon reveals Costa Berry, which is whatever because it is burned. And I can set up spikes, so they're going to die to the burn damage. And next they go to Jirachi. Jirachi can't really touch me unless it is like Tree Scarf, which is why I go to Caesar, since I can see if they have leftovers this turn. So they go for Thunder Wave, then Iron Head. I went for Roost that turn, but obviously that was just wishful thinking. They just flinched me with Iron Head, and then I just go for Bullet Punch because there's no reason why they wouldn't go for Iron Head again, right? So the game is 3-3 now. So I have no option but to go into my Skarmory. Sometimes these Jirachis run Grass Knot, which is why I didn't go Groudon there, if you were wondering. So I just have to let it get paralyzed and go for the 3rd layer of spikes, but I got fully paralyzed on the spot, which was not ideal. Then I got paralyzed again. So this Skarmory is putting the overtime at this point. And I did manage to roost this turn, which is pretty good. I didn't want to like get greedy against that Jirachi and just for it to get flinches. But yeah, this is very important to point out because if you have some type of knowledge about DPP Ubers, you know what sort of team compositions teams normally have. Like you need to have a Steel type, you need to have a Breaker for stall or a Breaker core for stall, and an Electric resist or immunity as you have with Groudon or Dialga. Your Steel type, and then you need something that can switch into Kyogre, something that can switch into either Common Kyogre or Specs Kyogre, and Choice Scarf, obviously. And then in the last slot, you probably need a Ground Resist or a Ground Immunity. So I was thinking that the only possible combination that these last two Pokemon or these last 2 slots would be a Choice Scarf user or something for speed control. Mewtwo is often not enough in case you are facing like Kabutops or something like that. And obviously the Ground Resist. So there's 2 possible combinations that I was thinking of. One of them would be like a Lati Twin, Latios or Latias as the Ground Immunity and the Kyogre switching. And the last would be a Scarfer, something like Darkrai, Garchomp, something like that. But the Palkia comes in, so it kind of leads me to believe that this Palkia is Scarfed. So I just decide to go to Groudon. If they have Fire Blast, that was the last Pokemon. Like, I was gonna sack this Groudon. I was prepared to sack this Groudon because my last Pokemon is a Dragon type. I'm not going to be revealing which Pokemon it is yet, but it is slower than Scarf Palkia. So I decided to just risk it. They ended up going for Thunder, and as you're going to be seeing this turn, they're going to be switching out into Giratina. So that leads me to believe that they are indeed Scarf Palkia, and they revealed that last slot, which is Giratina Origin. So there it is, the Kyogre switching, which is also a Scarfer, and the ground immunity. So I was sort of like right on the money on that, and that leads me to actually make a concrete game plan at this point. Okay, so depending on what this Giratina set is, which reveals that it's physical with Dragon Claw, if they could have Hidden Power Fire, but since they didn't use it here, they used Shadow Force. It leads me to believe that they have something like Wisp or something like that last. So this is the best possible scenario for me because they don't have anything to touch this Skarmory. Skarmory is about to go platinum this game. They cannot really like do much against it. And the only thing I have to be careful of is when clicking Whirlwind on the Jirachi, it doesn't have to like it doesn't have to Whirlwind the Palkia in. So you heard my dog in the back, I think, but whatever. Anyways, I Whirlwind out the Giratina. Jirachi comes in. I go for Roost. And the next turn, I believe I don't think I get a chance to attack, but I don't think I Whirlwind it there because it was too risky, in my opinion. The Jirachi being at that health doesn't really change much here. They go for Wish, and I do go for Whirlwind here. And Giratina gets racked in. I think this turn I don't go for Whirlwind, I think. I get paralyzed, so it doesn't really matter. So Giratina back to full, doesn't really change much about the battle. Then Jirachi comes in. I think I go for Whirlwind this turn, and I do get it. And as fate would have it, the Palkia gets racked in. So that Palkia cannot come in anymore. So whatever it decides to lock into, it's the last move it's gonna be clicking. They decide to go for a mid-ground play and go for Hydro Pump, thinking that maybe I would go to Groudon or stay in, or maybe hacks me to death, which would be possible, but no. They keep hitting, which is, good for them. And I do manage to, I think I go for Whirlwind here. Yeah, so the Palkia is out of commission. The path to victory is actually here. So the last two Pokemon are walled by Skarmory, and so I just kind of have to, how many roosts do I have at this point? Anyways, they keep going for Dragon Claw as I keep going for Whirlwind. I guess I can just speed it up now because all the important stuff is kind of done. So they keep going for Ironhead. They don't get the flinch. Palkia is gone. And now I can just safely go into my Groudon. So here they reveal Grass Knot. They do have it. And now I send in my last Pokemon, which is Rayquaza. My Rayquaza is actually Choice Scarfed, and that Jirachi always died from 25%. So my Rayquaza is going to be cleaning up the game for me. So as I mentioned before, Rayquaza, even though it's Scarfed, it is slower than Scarf Palkia. So I needed it to be gone to secure the win and lower the Jirachi for it to be at low enough HP so Outrage can just revenge kill it. So I think we closed that one out as we should have. And basically we started this game like pretty badly, coming from a terribly played game one and a game two that didn't that wasn't favoring us a lot, like at all. But we kept going, thinking that like it's not over yet, like there's still monsters to be revealed and whatnot. So one of the takeaways from this is that even though like the game doesn't start the way you want it to, or you fuck up like in a series like on the first game, you can always like pull through on the second and the third one. And so yeah, that's basically it. I want to go back to the beginning actually, just to make clear. So here we lose them on turn one. I see that the potential in Skarmory. We just play the game. We kept getting unlucky with the paralyzations, and then obviously the Mewtwo just pulls through. Yada yada. Now let's look at the game 3 game. So we are 1-1, and the first two teams were sort of like a bulky offense. And this time around, I want to go with a hyper offensive team. Sorry. So let's see what happens here. I lead off with Deoxys. He leads off with Kyogre. My Deoxys is just a Stud Rock. I don't think I have spikes on this from what I remember, so I just go for Taunt just in case they have something like Thunder Wave. And then I go into my Mewtwo, which is dual screens. Baton Pass is banned in this tournament, so there was no point in running something like Mew. So they go for Thunder, they get the paralysis. I wanted to explode the next turn, but I couldn't, obviously. They go for the save turn, and that's a pretty good play on their part. Then they go for Ice Beam, and I believe the next turn I try to finish the job with DQ. Then they go to Skarmory, and I just go into Darkrai as they set up spikes. And I go for Dark Void. I land, luckily. Dark Void is, Darkrai is the RNG mon, if I ever seen one. So it's a free turn to Nasty Plot. They go into T-Tar. There's no way this Tyranitar can KO me with anything. I am Chople Berry, even if I miss Focus Blast, but no. I'm hit. And they go Kyogre, maybe expecting me to predict something like Costa Berry, but I was going all in with this with this Darkrai. Next they go Mewtwo. Even if they had something like Aura Sphere, I would have lived because again I'm Chople Berry, but they go for Thunder. Luckily they don't get the paralyzation. And they send Dialga. I hit another Focus Blast. I'm 2 for 2 in this game, which is crazy. Then sending Giratina. Even if they crit me, they cannot kill me. So Dark Pulse is gonna get that KO as well. And since the Skarmory is asleep, it might as well be KO'd at this point. So Darkrai is going to be finish off the series for us. So again, we start off pretty badly in the first game and in the second game, but we kept going, and in the third game we actually had a really good matchup. So I think one of the main lessons here is just that don't really even if you think that things don't look like too good for you in a series, like just keep playing until you possibly can. Like there's obviously going to be a point if you're losing where you can say that you're not going to be winning, but as long as you can sniff out a scenario where you can actually pull off a win, even if it's like through hacks or something like that, just keep going. So we're actually not done. We're going to be looking at one last replay. But before I go through that, if you were wondering what happened in the tournament, I made it through the tiebreaker playoff, which was like a 16-person mini tournament. I made it to semis of that, and I lost to my friend Dave, Stone Cold. But it was a good experience overall. So anyways, just wanted to comment on that. And let's move to the last replay. So the last replay we're going to be looking at is in Gen 5, Black and White Ubers. We're going to be moving one generation further than the last. So this is for finals of Black and White Premier League 3. It was in 2023, which was 3 years ago. Again, crazy. But I'm playing my friend March Fires, also known as Tape. Uh, if I were to say that some of the goats in Urs like ever, he would be part of the conversation. He's pretty legit in many generations, and his first generation I think was black and white. So I bumped into him in the Pokemon Online ladder plenty of times back in like 2012, 2013. So two boomers playing that like at the peak of the tier, I guess. So this is the finals. This is actually a pretty. This was a pretty good tournament for me. Prior to this match, I was 6-0. I played him in the second week of the tournament, and I won. And I also won against players like Soulwind in the tournament. So I was having. I think this is probably the best tournament of my career so far. And my team was 4-5 against Tape's team. So I needed to win this battle in order to go to tiebreaker. So the stakes were as high as they possibly could be. And let's get into the battle. So I have a Magic Sun team, Satu instead of Espeon this time around, and a Choice Band Ho-Oh, String Killer Arceus, Support Dialga, Rock Polish Groudon, Nasty Blood Darkrai. So my Darkrai again has a pretty good matchup against this team, especially because the Arceus is possibly Ghost and stuff like that, so it could potentially just sweep right off the bat. But this was one of those games where something had happened in real life where something like that. I wasn't really feeling the game, so honestly, I played this game really, really badly. Like this turn, I hard focus blasted, but I like my dumbass didn't think of scouting for something like Costa Berry, and he gets up because of that. Like he capitalized on something like that, because now my Ho-Oh is going to be taking 50% from rocks, so that Ho-Oh is going to be very limited on what it could be doing. And yeah, it's obviously the Excadrill. That's not really a big deal. If they have sub, they probably don't have Rock Slide, so Ho-Oh is pretty safe. I'm Adamant Choice Band, so I just go for that big Brave Bird and destroy myself. Then I go to Darkrai, kill that with Dark Pulse. Then they go Kyogre, and I sack Satu, thinking they would be Scarfed. And I believe I go to Dialga. I believe I settle the rocks, maybe. Yeah. Oh, I go straight for Draco, not messing around. Okay. Now I think I set up. No, I go for rocks. Damn. I was allergic to rocks. Anyways, I double back to Darkrai, and they go Kyogre. This was my second mistake of the battle. I sacked Darkrai for no reason, where I could have sacked Dialga because it's pretty healthy. And I guess one of the reasons why I didn't do that is in case they were like Calm Mind Arceus Ghost, and I needed to roar it. But at that point, I think not losing to Kyogre mattered a lot more. So, or just sweeping with Darkrai mattered a lot more because the last 4 Pokemon cannot take on Darkrai. Anyways, they go for Focus Blast. I go for Roar again. For some reason, I was very allergic to rocks. Then they read the Custa Berry, they sack the Latias. So they're doing everything they should to win this game, and I'm doing all the opposite of what I should be doing to win this game. I'm getting my ass kicked right now, and not necessarily because my opponent's playing well, but I'm also like playing like trash. So I set up SD. What I should have been doing once again is reading this Arceus Ghost and try to get as many SDs as possible because it's the only way I could beat the Kabutops in theory. So they know that I would be clicking Shadow Claw, and they sack the Kyogre because at this point it doesn't matter for them. So they go Kabutops sorry, and they just revenge kill me with low kick. So it comes down to my Groudon here. My Groudon is a Lum Berry with Rock Polish and Sword Dance, so double dance Groudon, so to speak. And at the range that the Arceus is at, 88.8%, I don't have any possible chance to KO it without a crit. And even with the crit, it is a very, very low chance to KO it. But anyways, I go for Rock Polish here because I know I can leave 2 attacks from it. And, well, 1 attack, not a second one. And I just KO with Earthquake. So the Arceus comes in, and in any fair scenario, if there would be any justice in this game, I would be going for Earthquake and the Arceus would live willy-nilly. But just see what happens here. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But let's go back to this last turn. Okay, so I go for Earthquake and I get the crit. Now, crits in black and white are a 6.25 chance, if I remember correctly. If not, I will be correcting myself in the edits. With this, taking into account damage rolls, this Groudon had a 1.12 chance of KOing this Arceus, like taking the crit into consideration, and we got it. So we played like trash the whole game, and despite all of that, we crit last turn because I saw that even if that were the case, since this was a team tournament, I had to play it out until the end, right? Like I couldn't not care or say like I should be giving my opponent the win, and because they play better. That shouldn't ever happen. And even if you play like in an individual tournament, I don't think you should ever be doing that. I mean, if you want to do that, that's your prerogative. But think about how, like, if the shoe is on the other foot, will your opponent be doing that? I don't think so. At least I wouldn't do that. Like, hacks is part of the game. Like all this, like this 1.12%, like it's part of the game. So I won the battle because of that last turn crit. So I guess the lesson here is I don't want to like self-glaze myself saying that I did something right here because I really didn't. Like I played absolutely abysmal the whole game. But the point I'm trying to make, even though you can play like trash, the game might reward you even though you do that. Like I think we've seen a little bit of that in my PS lives, you know, that I use Thunderwave to check the Pokemon that I cannot check otherwise. This is sort of it here. Like eventually you're gonna get something, so you have to play things out. So if there's any takeaway from this whole video, you know, all the replays that I showed, is that you should play it out. Like you should never forfeit before the game is actually over. When you are 100% certain that the game is over, you can forfeit. But as long as you have a chance, I think you should play it out, regardless of what may happen. Like as long as you have a chance, like you have that chance, like you have to play your out, right? Like I think that's something that many players have said in the past. And honor, like it's good to think about honor and all of that, like, you know, what's fair. But as we've seen plenty of times in my videos and other people's like replays and videos and games, all of that, this game doesn't necessarily reward the player who plays better. So that's just part of it. Like that's the game we play. So that's the message for today. Don't forfeit unless you are 100% certain that you are going to lose, or it's the last turn and you cannot do anything about it. But if that's not the case, just play it out. So I guess I should tell you what happened in the tournament after this game. So we did go to tiebreaker, but I didn't play the tiebreaker because I wasn't like really playing. Well, not playing. I wasn't really like in a good spot. I don't remember what exactly happened, but I remember something happened to me that got to me. You know, one of those times where something that happened outside the game just gets to you. And I was having like a rough couple of weeks. So I talked to my manager and I just decided to like sit it out. Unfortunately, we lost a tiebreaker and we lost to an activity win, which is funny to say the least. But I actually did end up having a perfect run. So as you can see here, like I did go 7-0. I didn't lose any games. I should have lost this one in a perfect world, but I didn't. So we did end up having the best tournament of the best record in the tournament. So yeah. Anyways, and that's what I have for you today. I know it's not like a PS Live or something like that, but I was wanting to talk about this for a while now, but I didn't really have like a good chance to prepare something like a scripted video or something of the sort. So I wanted to do it through this sort of replay exploration, if you want to call it that. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you enjoyed this type of content, also let me know in the comments below. And as always, many thanks for watching and see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.